Bombshell Brunches, where your hosts Raquel Rudenberg and Christina Lau sip and spill with badass babes every Tuesday morning.
Good morning. I am so happy to introduce you to this wonderful total badass. I would like, sorry, I'm setting you up. I'm high expectation. I've set the bar really high, and you will crush it. I had a conversation with Kate Green the other day, and at the end of it, I wrote this line down. Kate is a person who doesn't wait for the doors to open. She'll find the doors, she'll take up space, and she will hold the door for others. Kate Green is the personification of being the change you want to see. So I'll give you the official bio, and then I'll let Kate introduce herself. So Kate's the founder of Kate Green Productions here in Vancouver, which is where we are, who was also nominated for a Canadian Screen Award. She is a top female producer and director and works tirelessly to carve a path for women within the industry. And I have seen it. If you have not seen NarcoLeap, oh my gosh, you need to do it now. Season 2 of the web series NarcoLeap was nominated for Best Web Program or Series Fiction by the CSAs. And that is going to be announced, I think, in May. So I'm not even going to go into your list of the things that you have done, because I want you to give us your highlights of your favorite things that you've done in your career. But I don't want you to talk about the sweet tarts yet, because that we're going to talk about that later. So tell me what your bio first. Give us a little intro.
Thank you for that intro. Gosh. It doesn't take much for me to be a badass, so I'm going to live up to your standards. I'd say, I've been a producer and I've worked in factual and documentary for many years, and that's kind of been my building blocks of my career and storytelling skills. And in the last 5 years, I've transitioned into directing work in the scripted world, and kind of really finding my voice and not being afraid to use it and tell my stories and start down that path. And I feel like it's a little bit later in life. I sometimes look at 20-year-olds and I go, man, I wish I had it together and I knew what I wanted to do and figured it all out by then. But I'm also a sum of my parts, and I had to take the path that I had taken through my career to be where I am right now, and to have the confidence to be a director and soon a writer as well, and I am writing. So yeah, that's me. Highlights. Gosh, NarcoLeap is definitely one of the biggest highlights thus far. And I recently did a zombie Western short film, which is on CBC GEM.
Amazing.
Which is like, what?
I love a good zombie Western.
It's a dark comedy too. But it actually, again, like I was talking about, that using my voice, it was like the idea for that film came from a really personal place for me. So, it was like this kind of sad, tragic thing that had happened in my life. But of course, so I made it about zombies.
Sure.
Zombie Western. Dealt with my demons that way.
I love that. And sorry, not to laugh at the bad thing that happened. Yeah, but I love processing through zombies. I think that's highly appropriate. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, and and I think I like the quirky, and I like the weird and the sci-fi and that those kind of genres, or even within comedy, dark comedies, I'm drawn to that because it's you create these worlds with different rules. And then you put in the themes and the ideas of love and relationships, or what's right and what's wrong, and you bash them up against the walls of the rules of that world. Star Trek was a great example. They did that all the time, right? I'm kind of on Star Trek, but that's what I'm talking about. Is that it's kind of the reason why I love these kind of genre pieces.
Favorite, who are some of your heroes? Like growing up, film heroes, shows,
Yeah, I would definitely say, I came to the sci-fi world later in life again. And I love shows like Fringe and Stargate and Battlestar Galactica and, all of those kind of shows. But, I loved the chrysalids, when I was in school and reading the chrysalids and kind of the Fringe and, all that sort of weird, different, maybe because I felt that way myself, as a kid growing up. But yeah.
P.S. If you guys like zombies, did you know that there's a zombie running app?
Stop it.
There's an app for everything.
So there's it's in your ears and you can hear them coming. And if you start slowing down, then they get closer. So you have to run faster. And my friend said he would use it at night to really.
This is a terrible story. I am going to
zombie lovers.
I want you to download this app, Raquel. This is your homework. Download this app and film yourself with.
I would do it in the dark, but we have a curfew here. You'll have to do it. You'll have to take one for the team, Chris. Sorry.
Oh, what? Jeez. Fine. I'm going to enlist some friends and we're going to do the zombie run.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Awesome. Thank you.
So funny.
Well, so tell me, with Kate, you started, I loved our conversation the other day. And for all of you who are listening, what I loved about it was how you talked about really where you came from. So give us a little quick background of, now we get to talk about the 5 sweet tarts. Because I love that I loved how you painted it. So just paint me that picture all over again.
Well, I actually, and just to give you another little insight to who I am, I played the drums in school. And I was a professional. I was in all the bands, jazz bands, and even when I left high school, I was in a rock band and I pursued it. And I was honestly thinking about pursuing a career as a musician, as a drummer, but I didn't have any examples of women. Like there was Sheila E. Like that was, and I barely knew who that was. Like there was no internet, so you couldn't Google who Sheila E. was, right? So, but I'd heard about. So that I just didn't see a path for me in music, and I didn't see how I could do it. But I also at the time I loved theater, and I was doing stage management in high school and stuff. And so I left, and I worked for a bit, and then eventually I went to university and I did technical theater because I thought, okay, I'm either going to be a stage manager or maybe a lighting designer. My cousin was a lighting designer. So, I had a kind of somebody to emulate, or look up to. And at that school, you had to, no matter what you did, you had to audition. So even if you wanted to be a set painter or a props designer or whatever, you had to audition for the shows. And I did, and I kept getting cast. So, I thought,
how unfortunate. My God.
I must be really good at this. Yeah, I must be so good at this, right? But I loved it. And there is a magic in making, a theater full of people laugh, or, you're telling a story and when you've got them, right? When you've got their attention. So, I definitely was bitten by the acting bug. And at 19 or 20, when I finished, I thought, I'm going to be an actress. And I moved to Vancouver to pursue that. And I did okay. I did some commercials and films and stuff. But to what we were talking about yesterday, I didn't want to wait for the phone to ring. I really was like, okay, I'm becoming a full-time waitress, basically. And nothing's, maybe the odd gig here and there. So I wanted to create my own work and make the phone ring. And I wanted to be the one making the phone calls. So I started this with some other women, an all-female sketch comedy troupe called the 5 Sweet Tarts. And there was 5 of us. And we'd do little stand-up shows or sketch comedy stuff like around town. And we ended up developing these characters, and we wrote a pilot script. And had no idea what we were doing, but we thought, well, now we've got a pilot script, we'll start pitching it, and at the time, back then, there was actually broadcasters still to pitch to in Vancouver. And so, but through that, I started doing the organizing again and the kind of the managing and I was like, I like this. And I'm not too bad at it. Like, and it's hard. I think it's hard for women to admit when they're good at something, because then you think, oh, you're being narcissistic or you're being, too showy or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Trying to be Magneto again, Christina.
Yeah.
Trying to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's my biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started pitching that. And I just eventually I was like, you know what? I love acting. It's fun, but it's, I am a full-time waitress, and I really enjoyed kind of the producing side of it. And so I left my very lucrative waitressing bartending job.
Which actually in Vancouver, can I just say, if you live anywhere, I did hospitality in Australia. I remember, I think maybe in my lifetime, I made $200 in tips. Like that's in my lifetime of 10 years in hospitality. Whereas in Vancouver, people live well.
They have homes right in the city.
Yeah. No, it was really good. I paid off my student loans. I did lots of trips and stuff. And I worked at one of the worst bars or not worst, but it was a dive bar.
Which one?
The Canby.
Oh,
yeah.
You're at the Canby.
I was a Canby girl. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't here in Vancouver, don't worry. You don't need to come and find. This is not the Kate Green tour of her history. You don't need to stop at the Canby. We'll just leave that one.
Yeah. But I do say to this day that working at that bar made me a really good producer. Because I got to know people really quickly, and I got to be able to manage people really quickly and figure out what they wanted and what they didn't want and how I could get them to do what I wanted them to do.
I love that. Transferable skills, everybody. Transferable skills.
Just be a bartender at a dive bar. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I left that job and then I just kind of started crawling my way up the production ladder.
How did you tell me that? Because I know we have this conversation with a lot of people, and they go, "Oh, and then I got this job, or then I did that." But how did you do that? Like, what did you do?
What did crawling look like?
Explain crawling.
It's I don't know if there's many other industries that I can't think of any, but I mean, you volunteer at the beginning, you volunteer, and it's really hard, I think, for young people now to do that. I've come across a lot of people that have not even graduated film school. They just want to be in films, and they're like, "You mean you're not going to pay me?" I'm like, "No, I've never done this job before. Like, I'm training you how to do this job, right?"
Yeah.
So at back in my day, you'd volunteer and you make connections and make friends and be nice to people. Don't be a jerk. Work hard.
How did you know who to find? Like, who did you contact, and how did you find them?
Yeah, well, some of my sweet tart contacts.
Great.
But also I became involved with women in film as well. And my first professional paid job was through an ad in their newsletter.
In Women in Film and TV?
Newsletter, yeah. And the show is called Crash Test Mommy. It was a reality show. There's a good tie-in. The host, Nicole Oliver, who now is in NarcoLeap.
Oh, I love that.
Full circle.
Oh, I love it.
Like 15
I love it.
years later or something.
Oh, yeah. So you must. You have this really wonderful way of kind of collecting people and then keeping them with you. And I just, your values. I guess going back to the Canby side of things, you must have developed a really good way of kind of looking at somebody and saying, I believe in what you believe in. I believe in those values. I like who you are. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to kind of ask you about that for a second, because and I'm speaking from a place of growing up in entertainment as well in various ways. It's a lonely place to be a woman leader in the film industry. It's a lonely place. And I've heard casting speak about it. I've heard other actors as well, people that are mixed race, people of color, when you don't have representation and you don't have someone to look up to, and then you start to become the person that others are starting to look up to. And I feel like I wanted to just get into that side of where you lived, because we have a lot of people that come on, guests that come on, that talk about how they had to forge their way. And I want to know what it was in your world where you turned around and said, I've got to build a team of people around me, and this is how I'm going to choose who I'm going to be with and why. So can you speak to that for a second? Just
absolutely.
Who your people are.
Well, it's taken some trial and errors. You do find some duds along the way. There's no doubt.
It's not roses.
No, it's not all roses. But you just after experience, you do realize when you have found the gems. In particular, I'm working with Amber Orchard right now, who she was production manager, and she's co-producer now on NarcoLeap, and she's been transitioning in her career, but she's fantastic, and you just know when you meet people, people talk about overnight successes, like, oh, you're an overnight success. Actually, I've been doing this for 20 years. It's that sort of thing, and you don't get to that point by yourself. You never do.
Yeah.
So you need a team of people, you need a core group, and you look at people that are really quite successful, and I'm using air quotes as I say that. Somebody, for instance, like Quentin Tarantino, love him or hate him, or love his movies or hate them. He works with the same people all the time.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of the same actors, a lot of the same production designers and costume people and all of that. And, and there's a reason for that, because you start to get a shorthand with them. You start to have the same kind of aesthetic, or they know what you want aesthetically. But yeah, it takes a while to get to that point, and sometimes how you can help somebody, and sometimes you don't, but it might come clearer later on. But I'm at a point now where I know that people have helped me. I'm not so foolish to think that I got here by myself, and here is like not really anywhere. I'm still on the journey. It's not like I've made it. I'm done. The end. No, I'm still plugging along. But I think it's my social contract to other humans, and especially other women, that if I can help, I will. And that goes for other writers or creators or of diverse backgrounds as well. I think it's my responsibility to try and do that.
And I love that. And I just, because that was my next observation was really that, we talked earlier about, I know some of the people on NarcoLeap, and they're incredible actors. And there is such an incredible community of super talented actors in Vancouver, in BC, in Canada, that really are relegated to the principal roles. They're relegated to the smaller or the recurrings, but they're not the leads yet. And you are changing that narrative. And I think that's a very limiting belief, because we're, quote unquote, I'll use your air quotes too, that we're quote unquote, not as big or dense or populous as LA. But I had this conversation with someone the other day about the music industry. And I think I worked out that there was maybe 23,000 or 20-something thousand less people in Nashville more people in Nashville than in Vancouver. So when people say, oh yeah, but Nashville is like this, it's a music hub, but it's America, it's hugely populated, it's X, Y, Z. Those excuses don't always fly. And I think Vancouver might have less people in general than somewhere in the States, but it doesn't make those people less talented by any means. And I wanted to highlight that. So you really bring those people with you. What's your experience having dealt with people from all over the world and actors from everywhere? What's your experience of the Vancouver talent pool?
Oh man, I can't. Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty amazing. I work with a casting director, Tina Cluck, and Tina Marie Casting, and she brings in some amazing talent for me to look at for my projects. And I jokingly admonish her because I say, like, don't give me so many choices. Like, just narrow it down a little more for me, because there's so many, and they're so good and so dedicated. And and I think too, what's really great is seeing young actors that realize it's a job and it's a career. So you're not just a waitress. You are somebody that should be creating your own work. You should be going to classes. You should be asking for mentors. You should be going, I mean, you can't now, live theater or whatever, but you know, it's like there are things you can do as your job as an actor. And I think the new crop is kind of seeing that. And it shows in their auditions. It shows in their preparation.
Yeah,
and
I see that too.
You know, I have to laugh too. Actually, Chelsea, who's the lead in the role, she was another full circle hire as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So what my second or third job as a producer, I was producing a travel show, and I was looking for a new host, and I cast Chelsea as the host of the show. It was called Discovering Great Towns. And we traveled all through BC in this like RV with like me and the camera guy and a production assistant. And it was like the most ridiculous thing. But yeah, that was 2000 and, oh gosh, I don't, like 5 or 4 or something. Yeah. And I kept in contact with her. And,
wow.
Yeah.
And you know what? Okay, we're going to get in touch with you at some point, because Raquel and I
10 years from now.
No. We'll have to do it sooner. We'll have to.
We want a traveling one.
We want a traveling.
Oh, yeah.
We want to like bombshell brunches around the world and just brunch with awesome people everywhere and discover culture and things and live
all the
our best
little
lives.
hidden places in the world.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
I know, right? Let's do it.
Pitch me your ideas. I'm open. I'm open for business. Pitch me.
Well, it's out there now. We went from Christina not wanting to talk about this to Christina like pitching it to everyone who's listening.
Last week, Raquel was like, eventually we're going to do a show. And I was like, I can't, I have no capacity to talk about bigger ideas right now. Stop it. We put it we call it the rainbow bucket of things that Raquel is like, here are my big G's and all the things I want. And I'm like, okay, from an operational perspective, like you and I are very similar, Kate. So she'll be like, here's my big goal. And I'll be like, this is what we have to do right now.
Because she freaks out. Because if I'll say something like, this is a one-day thing, and she's like, but we need to get these emails more on point. And I'm like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a rainbow bucket. And everything happy and jolly goes in the rainbow bucket. And you don't have to worry about it, but we can just freely put anything in there.
Yeah. It's like a bad idea bear. If any of you have watched Avenue Q, it's a bad idea bear that is probably going to end up happening.
Hey, this podcast happened.
I know. Yeah. I was not in agreement. And now we're here. But that's a really important, like, next kind of phase of this conversation that I wanted to check in on. When there are people so the other side of the coin is when there are people who are really eager to get involved, and you have a group of people who are cliquey, not by virtue of meaning to be, but they've found their people. Like you said, you know, they travel with those same people. They work with the same people over and over again. What is the best way? And I've got to word this appropriately. What's the best way for them to demonstrate that they have added enough value to you to qualify them being noticed in that industry? Because in entertainment, it's so difficult. It's referrals, and people say, well, you've just got to keep trying. But a lot of people are not trying with any kind of focus. They're just knocking on doors and not recognizing that they need to add some value or do their research or, you know, find some things or find out where you're at in your career and then find their ways up so that they're not just making a giant ask with no reason. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's actually two sides to this coin. So I think on the person that's kind of trying to break in, I think that they need to, they do need to do their research, and they have to also be willing to do a job that they might not actually end up wanting to do forever. But, you know, I didn't want to be a production assistant or a first AD. Of course not. fill up coffee cups and all that. Of course I didn't want to do that, but I did it. I did it with a smile on my face. And then I said, what else can I do for you?
That's the can be coming out again.
That's
the can be.
Yeah. Except I didn't get tipped, so industry. So.
Bring coffee.
Yeah.
And then
and the other side of that coin is that I think people have found that core group of people, and I'm talking about myself in particular, as somebody who's gathered that. I think I always still have to remain curious about the world outside of me and other people, and just still be open and curious. And then that will allow me to look at somebody else and go, oh, okay, what are you all about? What do you, you're going to pour my coffee for me. Great. Now, what would you like? Then I'm going to ask, if I'm going to be curious, I'm going to ask what makes your heart sing? What do you want to do? Right. So I think there's two sides to it, and you're never always going to be pouring unless you're a dick, like you're not going to be pouring coffee forever. Right?
Or you really like that job.
Or maybe you really like it.
You really like that job?
Maybe you can
have that job. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I don't want a dick like pouring my coffee anyways. So I might not even be doing that.
That's a bad visual. That's not going to leave my mind. Thanks team. Thank you.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Okay, I want to talk about storytelling because that's well, I guess it's both of our worlds. I was going to say that's my world. I can't really own that.
Oh, thanks. Just leave me out of this. That's really nice. Thanks.
Christina's a beautiful storyteller. And storytelling means a lot to her.
Sure. Good job.
But a lot of what you do is you're trying to bring focus to the female lived experiences, and you talk about the female lens. So first of all, I'm hoping that you can just define for anyone who's not in storytelling world and not in film or music, what is the female lens? What is the female lived experience? And why is it so important to tell those stories?
Oh, good Lord.
Jam-packed.
Oh my gosh. The female experience. Well, I mean, I can only from my perspective, right, is what I tell my stories from and direct and write from. And so, hey, I'm a woman. So that's my experience. So I don't know if I have a very academic explanation or definition for all of that, but all I can say is that the stories that I tell are just from my perspective and how I feel and how I think maybe other women might relate to those stories. For instance, Murphy's Law. I can tell you a little bit about the background of why that film came about. My very good close family member of mine became very severely mentally ill and psychotic and hearing voices and all the rest. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. And often if you're around people like that, you also become the enemy. You are the target of their mental health outbursts and or what I'm sorry, I'm not using all the right words, but so, that was really heartbreaking for me. So that I made it a zombie comedy because it was so heartbreaking that I couldn't make it a drama. I wouldn't be able to put it down on the page if it was just a straight drama. So, I made it about 3 sisters who were going to Dawson City for a better life. And one of them had been bitten by someone. And they're robbing and stealing kind of on their way. And on their last heist, the eldest sister who had been bitten was captured. And so the film opens with her on the back of a horse about to be hung. And the other 2 sisters come in and rescue her. So throughout the course of the film, Mary Jo is turning into a zombie, right? She's got the strange rabies. And so the sisters are faced with a question that I was faced with, which was, how do you love someone, but, how do you help someone or potentially let go of someone that you can't help? Like you've done everything you can and you can't help them. So yeah, that's my brain. That's the female experience that as it is in my little head.
And I love that I love
That gave me
it's-
chills.
Yeah. You know what really hits me when you say that is that you're honoring the fact that not everyone processes the same way. And you're helping to normalize that, because I think there is such a history of film where if you are the Asian woman, you are the subservient one.
Yes.
If you are, there are these awful stereotypes that, and then, you know, God forbid you're mixed race and nobody knows where to put you, you know, and you know, this, we've had this conversation surrounding, there are big conversations that I'm very, very happy that are happening right now surrounding marginalized hate crimes. And I think that it's really, really important to just bring that back to what we're talking about here, to honor that there are different ways to process different things, and that those stories deserve to be told in those ways just as much. Like, I'm not a big horror fan at all. I cannot do it, but I recognize that there is a place in the world where people feel through that extreme storytelling style, which is way too much for me to handle. But normalizing the fact that we don't have to process the same way, I think, is the progression of humanity.
Yeah. So, you know, and absolutely. And that's just the thing, is that my female experience and way of storytelling is going to be very different than somebody else's. So, and I agree with you. I actually don't like horror films either.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
I can't.
No. I mean, Shaun of the Dead is like my limit.
Yes, that's the limit for me too.
That's it. I'm done. After that, I'm like, and even then, I'm like a bit scared.
Yeah.
Sleep with
totally. I can't handle it. Yeah. I'll pace.
I think in there is a level of emotional intelligence. That's what I'm seeing as a defining difference between a lot of movies that are currently out and what you're talking about, and also what some of other female directors are doing. And, you know, there's a real element to the three-dimensional woman and a sense of emotional intelligence. Like, you're right. You are going to react in a myriad of different ways. Sometimes it's one character reacting in a myriad of ways, because newsflash, we go through a myriad of emotions.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I draw this parallel a lot between music, because we have this conversation with pop music. And for those of you who don't know, I think there was a recent study that talked about the fact that pop music now, in order to write a pop song, your reading level only needs to be grade 3.
Oh,
and
boy.
When we talk, it's really disturbing. And I think the other component, which I think comes back to women and to the female lived experience, is that a lot of the people who were writing those pop songs that all the young women in the world are listening to are men. And so they're painting these pictures of, this is what is important to you. Popular culture is so insidious if we're not careful. And I think that this is it's a very direct parallel between film and music, which I find absolutely fascinating when we look at it and break down and say, okay, this is what we're talking about: love and being with the right person and finding your true love and the Disney narrative, which that's what Disney was for the time. And I think that we're all trying to undo our Disney selves over our lifetimes as a result. But it's just everywhere. It just, it permeates everything we do and how we approach. Even it used to permeate how I would audition. I would go into an audition and be like, well, I can't be too intense because that's not appropriate, or and I can't do comedy because I don't look the part, and all these different things come into play. But having stories that are coming from someone like you, who is speaking them from an authentic place, and then honoring that with other people who share those values, I think that's why it's so important for women, for there to be a much better balance of genders and identities in general in film and in storytelling.
Absolutely. Amen. I mean, it was just great to create something with 3 women, and not once did they talk about a man.
Yeah. I know.
A man, or like how they were going to get him, or they weren't fighting with each other over him, or, it was nothing about a man. It was about them, their love, right? And them as women.
And that's, when Frozen came out, I was like, what? I mean, there's still a male element in there, but I was like, the main character? No man? What? It was just, and that was huge.
I've never seen Frozen.
Stop it.
No.
It is one of, I can't believe.
Friends off.
That's it.
I mean, I can go watch a YouTube trailer right now if it makes you feel better.
It has some
the
of
look
the
on your face.
best,
Oh my God.
some of the best music. I'm upset. I'm upset.
I'm sorry. I have homework to do this week, and I'll watch it.
Yes, you do. Frozen 1 and 2. Thank you very much.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The series.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to also talk to you about your superpower as a leader. And I know me wording it this way is going to make you blush, because I can already tell that you're not someone who likes to put labels like Superwoman great on yourself, but I'm going to.
Give it to me.
So,
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about that. Like, what makes you an excellent leader? You've clearly formed a community. You're bringing people up with you, and you're doing that while leading. So how are you able to have people wanting to work with you time and time again? What makes you unique in that way?
I try not to be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Values.
Number 1, don't be a dick. Number 2, don't be an asshole. No, I mean, the truth of the matter is that you're always going to be an asshole in somebody's story, right? Somebody out there, but I don't think there's that very many people that think that way about me. But I just try to be nice. Like, just try to, work with people. And I don't think there's anything that you can't negotiate, that you can't figure out and make everyone happy. And if you get to an impasse, then you go, okay, shake hands and go your opposite ways. But and I guess that's just come over the years of meeting people that you like to work with and they don't like what and eventually you just get to a point where you just know, right? You just have that gut feeling. But why do I think because I do want to see people succeed around me too. Like, I do want people that maybe they haven't had the upgrade on set. Like, they've been a set dresser and they're more than capable of being a production designer, but they haven't had the opportunity. So I love being able to do a show where I go, okay, I think you're more than capable of doing this, and I'm going to give you the shot.
So you're noticing people. Which is huge, because a lot of people are so set in what they have to do for the day that they don't actually notice the people that they're working with. And then I'm assuming you're talking to people from all different areas on set and getting curious and figuring out what drives them and excites them.
Yeah. You know what? My observation as well of you, Kate, is that because you have a technical background yourself, you have a very unique sympathy and an empathy towards, behind the lens skills and capabilities. And you can see, and I think that's one thing I wanted to highlight to our audience, because in a career pathway, like, we talk so much about life design and about being the best version of yourself all the time. And we're really proud of the fact that on this platform and on our socials, we continue to push that narrative. One of the things that I love that you've done really well is you kept doing within the sphere of what you were looking to do. You were constantly scanning for like-minded people and like-hearted people. And you also built a really strong foundation, which I believe is a safety, because you can be graceful and a graceful leader when you know your shit. And when you have resolution where you're like, I know I have the language for me to say, actually, that's not what I want. That's not, and I know that to be true. The resolution, I think, for anyone starting out, you got to build that. because you did that very early on. And then to do that with a comedy troupe, to bring things together, to be so self-reflective as you were moving, I think that meant that you didn't have to push your way the same way that other people have to push their way in, because what you did was you went to the doors and knew that you wanted to be there and you deserved to be there. I mean, that's just my observation.
So good. Go on. Don't let me stop you. Well, I think, as a producer, you have to, what I say, have a producer's understanding of every single job. And some jobs, it's even better to have had the experience of doing them. But you're not going to know how to do everything. You're not going to know how to do sound on set. You're not, that's why you hire people. You hire good people to do things like that, or in post-production or visual effects or all of that stuff. But you have to have an understanding. You have to have the language. And I think that does go back to, my first time in university. And it was like, it doesn't matter if you want to be a set painter. You gotta do everything. And you understand. I mean, I understand very, very well what actors are going through when they're on set and how vulnerable they are. And they have to be. That's their job. And they've got all this noise and movement happening all around them. And, and you have to be keyed into that. As a director on set, you are getting pulled in a million different directions, and you have to be a little something for everybody. So hopefully there's something left at the end of the day for yourself. But you got, and I think, and it goes back to, as well as what we're talking about, being curious. Like, is that how you attach a microphone to a boom stand, or what? I mean, that's a simple, example, but it just being a little curious, asking a couple questions throughout your day about somebody else's life. Wow.
Yeah, the doors. Wow. That's what got me my job. Yeah, that's what I RJ and I just spoke. I was like, I'm so interested in investing because I know nothing about it. And that's I love that curiosity piece. That's really, really important. Really important. Yeah.
Even if you have to fake it. Even if you have to fake curiosity.
Yeah. It's also managing your own expectations, right? Like when we go into careers, we kind of have a vision of what it is going to look like. Instead of just being like, I'm so interested. And even if I'm not interested, I'm going to rewire my brain to become interested, because I have to live my life every day. And if I'm going to, I've seen so many people, and actually with musical theater, it was pretty hard to watch a lot of my friends graduate. And because they didn't feel that they wanted to do anything else until those opportunities that were musicals that were right for their typecast, they would just sit there and wait, and they would do things, but they would still just sit there and wait instead of getting curious about what it looks like behind the scenes. Being surrounded by the thing that you love can help you to find, which is what you did. You were like, I'm producing this. I'm falling into this stuff. I do actually quite like organizing. I like that you went for your biggest dream, and on the way you found a bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think that's so great. And you're just running. Like right now you've got NarcoLeap, you've got your stories that are in the works that you're writing. I mean, the trajectory for you is huge. I can't wait to see all of the things that you build, and then all the people that you bring up who can direct their own things and really, pepper this landscape with a much more equal representation of the talent that exists here.
Absolutely. You've just described my empire that I'm building.
Yeah. I mean, it's because I'm trying to sneakily insert myself into it. Was that not obvious? Every single guest we have, I'm like, this is why you're wonderful.
Because he was like, I'm just going to put this right here.
Raquel just sits in the background going, I'll come for you when I'm ready. She'll finish her master's and be like, it's time now. Yeah. She's the Xavier to my Magneto. I'm like, I'll wrestle with this. And she's like, I'll just wait. Tap, tap on the brain. We have nefarious purposes here.
Oh,
good.
terrible.
World domination.
Yes. I just want to consume the world. I said that the other day and I was like, I know that sounds awful, but
You
like,
monster.
I actually want to just take everything in. Okay, so we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to talk to you about something very important. Things go up and down, I'm sure, like in your industry, especially because you're dealing with money and people's jobs, and you're dealing with times and permits and COVID and God knows what else. I don't work in the film industry, so I'm sure I'm not even like coming close to the list of things that go wrong. So when things do go wrong, how do you find it in yourself to push through? What are you kind of tapping into? And like how can you inspire someone else who's having similar struggles, but maybe not in the same industry, maybe in the same industry? How can they really push through and drill down and be singular with their purpose? Yeah.
I was chuckling because, of course, when we went into production for season 2, we were one of the first indie projects back after the lockdown. And so we were definitely the guinea pigs. Like we had the unions visiting our set and, protocol. It was like, how are we going to do this? So we, we got through that with flying colors. And, but there was lots of challenges along the way. And I was laughing because my go-to word, as soon as somebody said, there's a problem, I'd be like, neat. And so I just like neat. Yeah. And so much so that my Amber, my co-producer and production manager, got me a shirt at the end of Wrap that said neat on it. But it does feel good when to say that when things happen. But I think it's kind of my approach too. Like, cool, neat.
How exciting.
It's a challenge. How do we, and immediately I'm thinking, okay, how do we navigate under, over, around, beside,
Right.
It's, challenges and rejections and all of that. It's going to happen. It's part of it. I've known people that have had rejections and they just like post them all up on their wall. And I think, the best, because that means that you're trying, that you're doing something.
Yeah.
A rejection is, okay, it's too bad, but you know what? It's better than not getting any answer. It's better than not even trying. You're trying.
I'm sorry. I love that.
Yeah.
Stephen King.
I love that.
Read Stephen King on writing. Actually, don't, because you don't have time. But do the Blinkist version. But Stephen King on writing. It's an amazing book for any writers. Anyone who's. I don't write, but I just loved reading it. It just full stop. It's beautifully written, and he said exactly the same thing. Like post up those rejections because
cool.
A rejection is one step closer to a success.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
And we're conditioned not to think of it that way. We're so conditioned to think like you got a rejection, so you're not made for this.
Yeah. Die. Die.
Find a hole.
Just put on your zombie running app and get out of here. Just leave.
I'm getting that app.
But this is what, oh my gosh, we're just all gonna have to take photos of us with this app now. Yes. One of the things that I do have to say that I love about actors is that Jeb Beach is a really great acting coach in town. And he said something that really, really shifted a lot of people's mindsets, and including my own, where he was like, you think that auditioning is when you don't get the job that you failed. Yeah. But auditioning is your job. That is your job. Yeah. So when you reframe it, because the outside narrative, the world's narrative is if you're not an actor and a lead, you're not an actor. And then they come back and say, but what do you also do? Because you can't have made this into a full-time job. And I think that's a very dangerous sentiment. Whereas and it's also dangerous to buy into it, to subscribe. But a lot of the actors I know in this town, which is why I think there is such great talent here, a lot of them recognize that their job is the audition. And so that's not a failure or a rejection. it is a step towards the success.
Yeah.
So getting these auditions, and even not getting auditions, being like, how do I meet? How do I find my way into a thing? What am I good at? What are my transferable skills? You know, can I make a zombie movie in the Canby by myself? Pretty easily, probably, if you've been to the Canby. So yeah, I just wanted to wrap that in, because I just want to give credit to the talent that exists here, and the casting directors that exist here as well, the people in this industry, and women in film and television, because I actually did do the mentorship program with them.
Ah, okay.
And Jen Spence was my mentor, and she was just incredible. I did this, a few years back. But I wanted to highlight that because, again, regardless of your industry, I can pretty much promise you there's an association or a foundation or something that is in that industry that you're in. To all our babes out there, there is somewhere that you can find like-minded people who are pushing people forward.
100%.
Every industry.
Yeah, 100%.
So find those people.
And I mean, to the auditioning, being on the other side of it now, there is so much out of your control. There's so many things and conversations that have nothing to do with your talent. Your audition was probably perfect. It was, there's just so many things that are just, it's got nothing to do with your audition.
And I want to transpose that into other industries as well, right? Like we have a lot of people here who are in creative industries in various capacities, and they wonder why they didn't get that job. And I think that, or didn't get that pitch, or didn't get that client, And I think the reality is what you've demonstrated in our conversations today is it's not about, what you want to do is pull together a group of people that can give you very consistent and appropriate, productive, constructive feedback for you to continue iterating well, because that's more important than ruminating over why you didn't get the client, or even sometimes asking the client why you didn't get them, because a lot of the times people don't know the answer to that. There's so many unconscious biases that we live with, that we work by. And I think surrounding yourself with that skill set, that foundation, that knowledge, and then the people who can help you, the team who can help you to iterate yourself as efficiently as possible, I feel like that's the key. That's the Kate Green. That's the Kate Green.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're the president and CEO of You Incorporated. Well, I mean, if I'm the president and CEO of Kate Green. And who are my fans? Who are my champions? Who are my supporters? My mentors? Who's in my PR? Who's my lawyer? Who's my all of those people are part of your company that is you, right?
Yeah, I love that. And that's for now. And now you're part of Bombshells. You're welcome. now we've just vortex you into
welcome
the
to the community.
Love it.
Oh, Kate, this has been just absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh, we're done.
I know. How is this?
It's
right.
We could just talk forever.
So fun.
So much fun. And you're just such an inspiration. You're just so, I love that you're so open. Your storytelling is so vibrant, not just in the work that you do, but in the way that you present yourself. And I think that's a real testament to the authenticity of the stories that you are bringing to the world. And I just can't wait. Oh, I also do want to give a little shout out to the NPR firm who got in touch with us. And Morgan, thank you for being such an incredible person and really supporting. Morgan's story is really incredible as well. We'll be talking to Morgan, whether she likes it or not, at another time. But yeah, I really want to thank you for being the change that you wanted to see. And I look forward to more and more people being able to look to you and seeing their future.
Wow. No pressure.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries. All good. Yeah, well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, Bombshells. In order to continue to elevate, subscribe and don't forget to click that little bell so you can get notified every time we have a new badass brunch. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.